You know, it's funny. Some of the most important technologies in our world have the most surprising origins. They weren't born from some grand strategic plan in a corporate lab. Nope. They were just experiments, side projects, simple tools that took on a life of their own. So let's dive into the story of one of the web's greatest accidental heroes, PHP. Now, that's not a quote from some critic trying to tear it down. That's from the creator himself, Rasmus Lerdorf. And honestly, this one sentence just perfectly sums up the whole story, the unplanned, organic, and kind of unbelievable journey of the language that, as you'll see, powers a massive chunk of the internet. So, what are we actually talking about here? Well, PHP first stood for Personal Home Page, and that name tells you everything you need to know about how small it started. Today, the name is a recursive acronym, one of those geeky inside jokes. It stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. Put simply, it's a scripting language made to be plopped right inside HTML to make websites dynamic. To really get PHP, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning, back to a time when it wasn't even a language at all. It all kicked off back in 1993. Rasmus Lerdorf just wanted a simple way to track who was looking at his online resume. So he did what any programmer would do. He wrote a few little scripts in the C language to get the job done. By 1995, he figured, hey, maybe other people could use this, so he bundled them up and released them as personal homepage tools. And here's the kicker. It was never, ever meant to be a programming language. It was just a box of tools that solved his problem. Okay, and this right here, this is where you can see the evolution. On the left, that's what early PHP looked like. It's wild, right? It barely looks like code. It's more like a special kind of HTML comment. It was simple, it was direct, and yeah, it was pretty clunky. But then you look to the right. That's modern PHP. It's structured, it's secure, it's professional. The difference is just night and day. And that transformation is the heart of this story. All right, so how did this little personal toolkit start its journey toward becoming a professional powerhouse? Well, the big turning point came in '97. Two developers, Zeev Sarosky and Andy Gutmans, saw the PHP had potential, but it needed a much, much better engine. So they rewrote its core parser, which eventually became the legendary Zend Engine. When PHP 4 came out in 2000 powered by this thing, man, it was like swapping a lawnmower engine for a V8. All of a sudden, PHP had the speed and reliability it needed for people to start taking it seriously. And then came PHP 5 in 2004, and this is when the language really started to mature. It wasn't just about speed anymore. It brought in a much better way to do object-oriented programming, which is crucial for building big, complex applications. It also added things like PDO, giving developers a single, secure way to talk to almost any database. The takeaway? PHP was officially growing up. But, as PHP got more popular, it faced bigger challenges. And like any good hero's journey, there was a moment of crisis, a lost chapter, that nearly tanked the whole thing, only to be followed by one of the greatest comebacks in software history. Now, if you've ever looked at the version history, you might have noticed something weird. We went from PHP 5 straight to PHP 7. So, yeah, what happened to PHP 6? The plan for PHP 6 was massive. They wanted to rebuild the core to handle Unicode natively. That's the standard for handling text from pretty much every language on Earth. But the project was just too complex. It slowed development to a crawl, it tanked performance, and finally, after years of struggle, they officially gave up on it in 2010. This was a huge blow, and for a minute there, the future of PHP looked pretty shaky. And this is the comeback. Instead of getting stuck on that failure, the team regrouped and launched PHP 7 in 2015. And it wasn't just a minor update, it was an absolute game changer. This chart says it all. It literally doubled the performance of PHP 5. And this was so critical because other technologies were getting popular. This incredible leap in speed wasn't just a cool new feature. It was PHP loudly declaring that it was still a major player on the modern web. But they didn't just stop there. Not even close. The momentum from that big comeback just kept going. And in the last few years, PHP has been completely reimagined. PHP 8 came along in 2020, and it added features that put it on equal footing with any modern language out there. It brought in a just-in-time or JIT compiler for even more performance, a much stricter type system to help you write more solid error-free code, and a ton of syntax updates that just make a developer's life better. This is not your old-school PHP. This is a sophisticated, high-performance tool.
And to make sure that future is safe and sound, in 2021, a whole bunch of big companies that depend on PHP, we're talking Automatic, Laravel, JetBrains, they all teamed up to create the PHP Foundation. Its entire job is to fund the core developers, making sure the language keeps evolving and thriving for years to come.
So, after this wild ride, accidental birth, professional growth, a near-death experience, and a huge comeback, what's the actual impact of PHP on the web today? Just let that number sink in for a second. Of all the websites out there where we know what's running on the back end, more than 74% of them run on PHP. That is just staggering dominance. This little accidental language isn't just surviving, it is the bedrock of most of the web.
And don't think for a second this is just a bunch of old, dusty websites. Nope. This chart shows the community is healthy and moving forward. The huge majority of PHP sites are running on the fast, modern, and secure versions 7 and 8. The ecosystem is alive and well.
And we're not talking about small blogs here. We're talking about the absolute titans of the web. WordPress, which itself powers over 40% of the entire internet, that's PHP. The software that runs Wikipedia, PHP. Huge systems like Drupal, Joomla, Moodle, all PHP. Its footprint is just immense.
So when you put it all together, PHP's story is one of the most amazing in the history of tech. It's a testament to the power of community, of open source, and of the resilience to stare down failure and come back stronger. It was never planned, but it became absolutely essential.
So you go from a few simple scripts for one guy's homepage to the engine powering our digital world. It's an incredible reminder that sometimes the most important inventions are the ones nobody ever meant to invent in the first place. The only question left is, what's next?